What's that dot at the end?
It's a full stop.
Oh.
Sorry, I should have. So you can ignore it, really.
Are we allowed to use a pen and paper?
Oh, yes, of course.
We do D as well.
So guys do both C and D. Arjun, yeah, your answers for C is good. Move on to D, which is the tricky one.
D.
It's just, you gotta sub in the numbers. So what you do is, you just like 1 on whatever this A times 1 over C is, right?
Yeah.
And then once you get that, you do the reciprocal of that number in there. So just sub the numbers and see what happens. I think it's just easier if you sub the number to begin with, otherwise it gets a bit tricky. Because it's hard problems, always with hard problems, it's hard to tell immediately what's going on. So you got to get a feel for the question by just subbing numbers, see what's going on.
Yeah.
Then you can approach it. Do you guys want any hints for C and D? Let me know.
You know, for D, how it's like -1/3.
D, negative. Is there, I don't think there's, or D is -1/3, yes?
And it says 1 times B, 1 divided by B times D. And so then would the entire fraction be a negative, would only the denominator be a negative?
Well, if it's the denominator is negative, it's like the reciprocal of a negative is a negative. So it's going to be, the whole thing's negative.
Okay.
Just the second part, 1 and B times D. Yeah, I think your answer is correct. Previous one positive. Yeah. You should times the whole number. So you did 120 plus 15. The first number still says positive. 20 is still positive. But the second part is negative. The first part is still 107 times 4. 128. The second part is because of negative. Does that make sense why the first part is positive? How are you going with this one?
Oh, finish C and just wondering about D.
D.
Right.
Oh,
This one be right.
you subtracted. What did you do? Which part did you do? 28 minus 15.
20 plus negative.
20 plus 15. Yeah, you just gotta be careful not to make some mistake. So in what A is, sub in what C is into that formula at the end. That's what we're trying to find. We're trying to find the last bit at the end, right?
Yeah.
We should sub that A in, sub that 1 on CA. What happens there?
So that
It's just we know that A is 1 on 7. So for D, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a hint. Sergeant, it's not exactly that because you got a reciprocal of a reciprocal in there. So if you sub in these values in, you get 1 on A is 1 7 times by 1 on C. C is 4, so 1 on C is a quarter. So you got 1 on 1 7 times 1 on 4. So that what's 1 7 times 1 4?
1/28.
Not negative, it's reciprocal, which is 1 on 28. Now you have 1 over reciprocal. That's a reciprocal of a reciprocal. What does that become? Exactly. So the first part becomes 28. Can you guys do a similar part to find what 1 on B times D is? Did you see what I did there? I subbed it in. I got the reciprocal of a reciprocal. And then the reciprocal of 1 on 28 is just 28. Because reciprocal of reciprocal, you go back to the starting number.
okay.
You do the same thing. C. And then can everyone else get to find what 1 on B times D is? Yep. Let me take a look. Because the number is correct, the negative number here is positive number is bigger. It's negative in the second part, but the first one's positive and it's bigger. So it doesn't go into negative. So
Yeah, it's always like a negative.
no. Be careful, first of all, fractions don't act like that. I just add the denominators, but it's not the fraction. There's no fractions here. It's 1 over whatever that fraction is, which is a whole number, which is 28.
Yeah.
Same thing with 1. It's 1 over whatever that. Because if you sub that in, it's 1 over 1 over 50. Reciprocal of a reciprocal becomes. So this is so what we did here was do the reciprocal.
I think a color alarm middle. Yeah, I had that. Yeah, I had that as well.
Which alarm?
A car alarm.
Oh, outside.
Yeah.
Oh. There's a car. That's also like the ambulance far away from it. Alright, so anyway, just for this question again. If you look here, for part that 1 on 8 has 1 on C part, you get 1 over 28. Right? And when you do that, that's 1 over a reciprocal. That's a reciprocal of a reciprocal. What does that become? What's a reciprocal of 1 on 28, basically? 28. So that becomes 28. So that's why that part is 28, not 1 on 20. Because it's 1 over that. Right? So that first part's 28. The second part is 1 over B times D, which is B is 1/5, D is negative 1/3. 1/5 times negative 1/3. Negative 1/15. And what anyone online, what does this become? 1 over negative 1/15.
15.
15.
Yes, but with what sign?
Negative.
Negative 15. Because negative reciprocal of negative is always negative. So you have 28. This part's 28. This part's negative 15. So if you add them together, what do you get? What would our answer be? Anyone online?
Negative 13.
Careful, 28 is bigger.
13.
13 plus 15. Good. That's the answer. But here's how you gotta be careful. I'm gonna put a few of these problems in the homework this week. Right? So there's gonna be these are reciprocal of reciprocals, right? It's 1 over whatever this fraction number. And reciprocal goes back to a whole number. Do you have a question?
No.
All right. So it's being 28. Same thing here. 1 over negative 1 of 15. It's being the reciprocal of negative 1 of 15, which is negative 15. So I think just in general, 1 over a, it just means reciprocal of reciprocal, which is just, this idea is kind of important. Okay. All right. So we'll have a break now, 5 minutes. Then we'll go to division. Okay. So just get a 5-minute break for now. Johnny, did you watch the footy last week? Did you watch the footy last week?
What, yesterday or last week?
Last week.
It's only done at the percentage or something.
No, I mean we both lost. Geelong got destroyed as well. Yeah. I thought they had it, but then I wouldn't expect that.
Exactly. Even yesterday was the same.
Oh, what happened yesterday? I didn't.
Yesterday there was some COVID.
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah. But like, how could Hawthorn win against Collingwood? Like that's like the 16th. They're like 16th in the ladder. And
Yeah,
Essendon is like 10th in the ladder and they lost it.
Yeah, but Collingwood wasn't playing as good against Hawthorn.
Aren't you like playing today?
Bulldogs have a chance to be in the finals. They have a little bit of a chance because they have more percentage of GS Giants.
Ah, you go for the Bulldogs?
No,
No?
I go for Melbourne.
Melbourne.
Or Melbourne, like North Melbourne or just Melbourne?
Melbourne Demons.
I don't think any of us know of Melbourne.
Oh, well, a couple of my friends from my school go for North Melbourne.
Oh.
On that side.
So one of my friends, he goes to North Melbourne. He always gets teased about it.
Yeah,
Every single day.
I asked one of my friends who goes for North Melbourne how they went, like against us, and they started hitting me.
That seems reasonable.
My brother and my dad support Richmond, but
Oh, yeah?
but not last year. When Melbourne bet Richmond, my brother immediately changed to Melbourne. Like this. I don't want to be in Richmond anymore. That club is trash. I want to be in Melbourne.
So now that they're losing, he moves.
Yeah.
One of my friends, like one of my other friends from like another class, they support West Coast.
West Coast?
Yeah.
They were actually pretty solid like 2-3 years ago, and then they fell
were-
off so quick.
Exactly, they were like so good 10 years ago. They were winning like 3 premierships.
Yeah.
That was a great time. Yeah.
I remember because I was pretty new to the AFL. Like when I was watching them, I was like, West Coast is good,
Yeah.
and literally like 2 seasons later, they just completely dropped off in 1 season.
That's what happened in Richmond after the 2020 premiership. They just like went down.
But it wasn't that bad. I think they were still in the
I
eighth.
mean, like they
Melbourne has more percentage than Brisbane and Port Adelaide.
But aren't they? Are they
Melbourne's
fourth?
fourth. Port Adelaide.
But they have a better percentage.
Oh yeah.
I gotta.
Fourth. I feel like Brisbane will win.
Yeah, Collingwood always like chokes on the grand final. Yeah. Apparently, they've lost like 27 grand finals. Yeah.
Oh really?
Port's only won like 2 or 1.
They're pretty new though, right?
Yeah. All the new teams only won like 1 premiership. Like the Suns, but they're like really good. Yeah.
The GWS Giants are going to do a match against Carlton
Oh,
on
yeah.
Saturday.
points.
They're probably gonna lose then. Yeah.
Yeah.
How is Freeman?
The Giants' percentage is 105, and Carlton is 116.
Oh yeah. If Bulldogs win, they'll make it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I want Bulldogs to win.
because they
Why do you dislike
I just don't like Joe.
which players on the team?
The whole team.
The whole team?
I just don't like them.
What about Jeremy Cameron?
They. I'm so surprised they like won.
Melbourne
against-
has 60 points.
I want a rematch.
All right, we'll get started now. So we're going to division now. Has everyone got the handout?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we want to skip some sections that aren't super important, but I guess the key goal here by the end of this section is I want you guys to be able to do stuff like this. If I give you 20 divided by 1/3 or something like this should be easy for you guys.
Are we doing long division or short?
We're gonna do a little bit of long division at the start, then after that, not much long division.
Okay.
But do you guys know what this answer to this one's gonna be? 20 divided by 1/3. You shouldn't know this, so just give a guess. I haven't told this yet.
20.
20? No.
It's actually on 3 times. 5 or 6. I'm just gonna say.
You're just guessing.
5 remainder 2.
No. Okay, I'll give you an easy number. 4 divided by 30.
Oh, 1 remainder 1.
12 over 1, 12.
Well, good.
12 over 1.
So if you guys get the 12 part, that's good. But this is actually equal to 12. But it's fine if you don't know this. I'm going to explain this a bit later. But that's our ultimate goal is to do the stuff like this.
Oh,
Right.
is this fraction division?
Division by reciprocal.
Oh, yeah.
And ends up being multiplication. But if you guys don't get this, we're going to get to this soon. But for now, it's just accept that it's 12, right? So division is just the reverse of multiplication, right? Because all it means is if I have 217 over 7, which if you do longer division, 217 on 7, 7, 2, 0 of them, that's 3, 27 and 21, 3. 21, 0, 7. So that's 31, 7, 22, 17. So that means 217 divided by 7 is 31. What that means is whatever this answer times by this one is 217. So 31 times 7 is 217. That's the definition of division. It's reverse multiplication. Right? I think you guys done enough division to know that so far, right? So the point of the reason we came up with division is when we want to separate things into groups, right? You know, if a group of 4 people want to split 8 slices of pizza among them, what they do is they do 8 divided by 4, which is how many slices per person? 2 slices per person. So it's this idea is really useful in real life when you split things into groups, right? Or you know, for another example, a basketball coach wants to split a class of 30 into teams of 5. So he needs how many teams? 6. 30 divided by 5 is 6 teams. Right? So there is a real life point to this. So we had to come up with a way to explain this a bit more thoroughly and properly. Right? So I think you guys all agree that division is the trickiest operation out of the 4, right? Out of the 4 basic ones. Yeah. But even though it's tricky, basic division should still be simple for you guys, right? For example, 20 divided by 5 is 4. 32 divided by 8 is also 4. What about the rest? If you have any number A divided by 1, what does that become?
Hey,
8. Good. It doesn't change. Because you're dividing A into one group, it just stays as A. Oops, sorry. like that. And then we also have B divided by B. If you divide B into B groups, how many A's in one of them? If you have any number by itself, what do you get? And let's take, yeah, 1. For example, 6 divided by 6. You're splitting 6 into 6 groups. The only way to do it is putting 1 in each group. That's 1. Okay, what about you divide 0 by a number C? Think like this: you have 0 items, you split into C groups. What are how many groups? How many items will go in each group? 0.
None.
Yeah, so it's none or 0. So does that make sense? This is some basic divisions properties. These are 3 properties I guess you didn't know. When you divide by 1, just like when you multiply by 1, the answer doesn't change. When you divide by itself, the answer is 1. And the third property is when you divide 0 by anything, you get 0. And that's that. Any questions with these properties or the basics? No? And here's some terms you gotta know with division. So first of all, the number you're dividing by is called the dividend. Just, right? So let me highlight these. It's not super important in my opinion. I think the most important term here would be third one, but let's go to the second one first. The number you divide by is called the divisor. Highlight. Divisor, right? So if you divide in 27 by 6 or by 3, 3 would be the divisor. But the most important term, in my opinion, is quotient, which is the answer you get when you divide 2 numbers. Right? So if you divide 16 by 4, the quotient would be? Anyone? 16 divided by 4, sorry, 16 divided by 8, what's the quotient? 2. It's the answer, which is 2. The answer is the quotient. Does that make sense about these terms?
It makes sense.
Right, good. Okay, so this division gets complicated quickly, so we start using long division. Have you guys done long division before? So obviously, let's go through this one then. Just quickly finish this one. Just quick drills, right? I want you guys to do 36 divided by 7 on long division.
As a remainder, do we state the remainder as a fraction, a decimal, or just remainder?
Sorry?
What do we do with the remainder? Do we write it as a decimal or?
There shouldn't be any remainders here. You all divide perfectly, I
We
think.
also do B.
Oh yes, do A and B.
Can there be reminders for like the steps? But not the answer.
Put my answers in.
Okay, nice. Let me see. Yeah, they're both good. Very good, Arjun. So when you're doing long division, you gotta be careful. If you mess up like the subtraction and stuff, it'll just be, you get confused. So the answer to the first one we're gonna go through now, 336 divided by 7. Right, so how many 7s are there in 3? 0, right? So we just move on. How many 7s are there in 33?
4.
4, good. So 4. 7 times 4 is
28.
28. So you should take that away. Right, 33 minus 28 is
5.
5. So you get 5. Bring this 6 over. 56. How many 7s are in 56?
8.
8. That's 48 is our answer. That's part A. I'm not going to go through long division for all of them because I think you guys done plenty of long divisions. But the answer to this one is 396 divided by 11 is 36. Divide that by 4, you get 9. Right? If you want me to explain anything though, let me know. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna skip the second exercise. Right, we'll leave that alone. Actually, let's do part B only. Just part B. Because A is pretty simple. You guys to do a big number. Let's do part B of the exercise. Good. So we're just doing part B, so question we're doing. Just submit your answer when you get it onto the not host account. Okay, it's very good, Sarah. Okay, we're just gonna discuss this now. So keep going if you're still doing it. For 52, for 5, there's no 43 inside 5, right? So we go to the next number, which is 52. How many 43s are there in 52? 1. So they write 1. 43 times 1 is 43. Take that away. What do you end up with? Very good answer. You got the answer right. It's 9. Yep. And then bring the 4 over. How many 94s are in 43? 2, right? 2. That's 2. 43 times 2 is 86. Subtract. And 86, which is exactly 2. The whole number. This is how you get to the answer. Any question with this? Right? No, I think this should be pretty easy for most of you guys. I think you guys have done plenty of long division, right? Okay, so we'll move on from there. Did anyone have any questions with long division? Any if you guys want to know any sort of shortcuts or stuff like that? Okay, seems not. So we'll move on. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna check the properties of division to see if commutative, associative, and distributive work. Right. So before we begin, I want you guys to try and guess which of these properties work for division. Commutative, associative, and distributive. Just give it a guess. What do you think? Think about it for a bit. Think.
Associative.
Associative.
Maybe all three.
All three. Can you-
Associative, commutative, and distributive.
You guys remember what they were again?
Isn't commutative the one like just switch it over?
Yeah, switch. If commutative means if you switch them around, the answer doesn't change. So for this one,
Is it commutative?
if you look here, right? For example, 6 divided by 3 and 3 divided by 6. If it's commutative, it doesn't change, which it shouldn't be, right? Because when you do, like if you do 8 by 4, it's the same as dividing 4 by 8. Yeah. So the answer to this one is no. And look, I'll explain this in more detail. But associative means if there's 2 divisions within the thing, it doesn't matter which one you do first. Do you think that's true? Yes. This one's a bit trickier. We'll see this one. We'll come to this later. And distributive means we have numbers being added or subtracted inside brackets. You can do the division for each of the numbers separately as well.
I think both of them would be the same.
Sorry?
Both G and H would be the same.
Yeah, we're gonna check. We'll check that later. We're gonna come to it. But if it is true, it's probably distributive. Okay, so let's go through the first one. We're just checking for commutativity. This is commutative. So A, B, and C, we're checking commutative. Right? So first of all, we know what 6 divided by 3 is. Right? What's that? 2. It's pretty simple, it's 2. If it's commutative, 3 divided by 6 would also be 2. Is that true? No. 3 divided by 6 is some fraction or decimal. If you guys know it, it's half. Right? Or 0.5. But it's not 2, right? The point is it's not 2. It doesn't matter what the answer is, it's not 2. Does that mean it's commutative? No, not commutative. Commutative means it works for all divisions. If it doesn't work for one of them, it doesn't work at all. Right? So it's not commutative.
Wouldn't
Sorry?
it work for 1 divided by 1? And
Yes.
all the divisions added the same numbers?
Yes, that is true. Actually, really good and accepted. 2 divided by 2 is equal to 2 divided by 2. So, but commutative property means it cares about the operator, not the numbers. So it's for division specifically. If it's commutative, it works for any 2 numbers. Switch them around. But you found a special case, which it works for, but for it to be commutative, you got to work for all the numbers. So does it sort of make sense?
Yes.
So all the numbers need to have this property work. If even one of them fails, it's not commutative. Right? So E, E, and F. So let's check if it's associative, which means if there's 2 divisions, right? It doesn't matter which one you do first. Do you think that's true? Let's take a look. So D and E. If it's associative, we should get the same answer, right? I want you guys to give it a go. What would D be?
6.
Going in. Yeah, even if you got someone else with the answer.
3.
So 48 divided by 4 would be
12.
12. Divide that by 2, you get?
6.
Yeah, very good. Do you think E is the same? No, right? Here we put the brackets first, so we have to do this division first. So 4 divided by 2 would be
2.
2. So it ends up being 48 divided by 2. What's that? We're in F part E now. We're in part E. 24. It's clearly not 6. What does that tell us? The associative property, does that work or no?
Does.
Yeah.
It does.
Does.
It does work? If it does work, that means the answer will be the same, right?
It
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Okay, we got 6 and 24. 2 different numbers. So it does matter which division you do, right?
Yeah.
So the associative property does not work. Does it make sense why it doesn't work? If it does work, it doesn't matter which order you do it. Like if it's addition, right? You can do 2 plus 3 plus 4, or which is the same as 2 plus 3 plus 4. But with division, it's not the same. It does matter which one you do first. If you divide by 4 first, you get this number 6. If you do the 4 divided by 2 first, you get 24 in the end. Right? So with division, do it from left to right unless there's brackets. Because the answer can change. It's not like multiplication where you can just choose which one you want to do first. Here you have to do it from left to right. Does this sort of make sense? So if I put no brackets, right? If I just do 48 divided by 4 divided by 2, which one do you do first? Yeah, you have to go left to right. But if it's multiplication, right? 48 times by 4 times by 2. Doesn't matter which one you do. Which one I do first? No, right? It doesn't matter because this associative property works for multiplication. So it doesn't matter which one you do first. But here, it doesn't work. So you have to go left to right. Start this one, then you go to this one. Does that make sense? How it's associative doesn't work because the order does matter. If the order doesn't matter, then it's associative. And finally, we'll check the distributive, which is whether we can distribute addition over division. Whether we can sort of, if there's addition inside brackets, you can split it up nicely, is the question. Right? So let's do part G and H and compare the answers. If it's true, it's probably true that commutative distributive is true. So if you do the addition first, you end up getting 56, right? 56 divided by 4. Is that what you guys got?
Yeah.
And the answer to that is 14.
14.
Good. Right, so we're doing some simple division, we're just checking the properties. If you do H, if you do the divisions first, divide the numbers separately first. 48 divided by 4 is?
12.
Well,
8 divided by 4 is 2, right? So that's simple. If you add them together, you get 14 again. That means it works for this.
work. The distributive work.
Yes, it does work, but is what we did enough to know if it does that work? Like if I just give you one example, does that mean the property works? I gave you one example that works. Does that mean the property works though?
No.
No, right?
No.
And I'll explain why it does work. Because it means if it's distributive, it works for all numbers. Just one example, not enough. So I'll give you an explanation a bit later, proper explanation. But for now, just I guess take my word for it that it is distributive. Right? Because I mean, if I showed you this example, if I said 2 divided by 2, if I switch them around, it's equal to 2 divided by 2. That works with that. Switching the numbers around does work there. That doesn't mean commutative is true, right? So one example not enough, but I will explain it a bit more in depth a bit later on. Okay, so here is, I think, the big important lesson of today. So we're going to go to the new definition of division. Right, we're going to define division in a new way to make it a bit easier for us. So I want everyone to pay attention really closely for this section. So actually before we go there, let's tick the boxes, right?
I think
Sorry? What were you saying?
forget it's okay.
Okay, so we'll check which properties work, right? We know that commutative and associative don't work. distributive does work. So with division right now, you can distribute it over fraction over brackets, but the commutative and associative properties don't work. All right, so we're going to go to a new definition that's a bit better. So with the current definition of division, we can use which property? Which property does work? Anyone online or anyone, just let me know which property are we allowed to use?
Distributive.
Distribute.
Very good. So we can distribute it over fractions.
Doesn't the distributive property only work when you break it into?
Sorry, you're cutting off there. Could you say that again?
Distributive property only work if when we like distribute or make the numbers a smaller amount, only if they're the exact same as the divisor.
What do you mean by that? Exact same.
So it's like if you break, for example, it works 2 divided by 2 because they're the same number as the divisor, but then it won't work for like 8 divided by 4.
Wait, for distribute, you need 2 numbers inside brackets, really.
Oh, okay.
You can split it up like this if you can do this equal to 4 divided by 4 plus 8 divided by 4. Then that works. So you need 2 numbers to distributive property.
Okay.
Right, so that's the idea. It's not, I think you're talking about commutative and associative, which is when the numbers can be switched around. Which I do agree with you, they don't work, right? Commutative and associative number properties don't work. With that one? Don't work all times. But I'm going to tell you now there's a new definition that we can do that allows us to have all 3 properties work. Right? So we're going to redefine division in a different way that makes it a bit more flexible. So I know it's going to be a bit tricky for you guys at the start, but here's the definition. A divided by B. So when you divide A by B, the same as being A times by the reciprocal of B. So Imal, pay attention, this is a really important section. So A divided by B, which is the same as A times the reciprocal of B, so which is A times 1 over B. Very important concept, right? We're going to, especially in fractions, very useful. We're going to do fractions in a little bit, right? So A divided by B, same as A times the reciprocal of B. So for example, 3 divided by 5 is equal to, into the new definition, what would that be? 3 times what? What's the reciprocal of 5?
1, 5.
That's the answer. So this is the new definition. And to be honest with you, you're gonna see like what's the point of this? Because your normal definition is gonna be easy for you to begin with. But then it's gonna come in really handy later on when we get trickier divisions. Okay? So let's take a look. Actually, I'm gonna say right now, all 3 properties work because why do all 3 properties work with this new definition? Now, what's the operation we're doing now? Division turned into? In multiplication, all 3 of these properties work. If we converted division to multiplication, all 3 of the properties work.
To multiplication.
Yeah, very good. So all of the 3 properties work now. That's one reason this is useful. But second reason you will see when you do division by reciprocals. Right? So I know that this is easier for you to do, but actually I don't want you to solve the question. Can you convert this into multiplications by reciprocals? So I don't want you to get the answer, because you're going to get this answer really easily, right? But what I want you guys to do is use the new definition of division and convert it into something like this. So you know how I converted 3 divided by 5 into 3 times 1/5? What to do like that? Does this sort of make sense? So I converted 3 divided by 5, which is division, into multiplication by reciprocal. I want you to do the same thing for the next questions. So all 4 of these. Does that question make sense?
Yep.
What about for you guys online? Does the question make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yep. Oh, so yeah, that's like the what I did at the start. But what I want you to do here is convert it to multiply by the reciprocal. So, like for example, when I show you the example here, right? 3 divided by 5 became 3 times the reciprocal 5, which is 1/5. I want you to do the same thing here. Not get the answer, multiply that by, then we divide by. I'll show part A and then it may make a bit more sense. So 16 divided by 4 is the same as multiplying 16 by the reciprocal of 4, which is 16 times by 1/4. So that's the answer for this. That's what I want you guys to do. Does that make a bit more sense?
Yes, it.
Okay. And after this, we'll talk about it. Okay, all right. I'll see you next week, Sarah, and I'll upload the recording to YouTube so you can see the rest of the class as well.
Okay.
Bye. Yeah, very good, Sarah. So part B is 35 times 1/7. Right? And I won't talk about this bit for a couple seconds now. Keep going if you haven't done it. I don't want to do the exercise, but what's the point of this, I guess, right? Because you guys already know how to divide this. You know the answer of 16 divided by 4 is 4. 35 divided by 7 is 5. We don't need to convert it into whatever this new definition is to get the answer, right? So the point of this comes in you're dividing by reciprocals, which we'll do later. But we're going to practice with the definition for now, so that when we get to division by reciprocals, it'll be a lot easier. Okay? We'll skip A, and you guys do part B here for the exercise.
Oh.
If you did area, it's fine. To not get the answer, sorry.
Oh.
Same thing as example. You just do it like the other way. Like the not new definition for, yes. So ignore this solve question. Right, so for part B, the answer to that is 105 times by the reciprocal of 5, which is a fifth, times by the reciprocal of 7, which is 1/7. Yeah. And A, I'm going to put it up. If you didn't do, that's fine. It's 27 times by 1/3. Yep, you had to quit.
I did 55 and 1/7.
55.
I thought you would actually have to like divide from left to right and then find the reciprocal of 7.
Oh. So 105 divided by 5 is 21 times by where does 55 come from, I guess?
I think I got it wrong.
Okay, so so this is a bit tricky because it's 3 numbers. So I want you guys all to get your head around this one. Is you just go left to right, right? 105 divided by 5. Actually, let's ignore the right part. Let's go from left to right, basically. So we do this part. 105 divided by 5. 105 divided by 5 under the new definition would just be 105 times by
1/5.
Yeah, perfect. And then you divide this number by 7. And whatever this number is. And when you divide this number by 7, what does that become? Division by 7 is same as multiplying by? No, division by 7, same as multiplying by?
7.
1/7. I mean, you can ignore the brackets because it's multiplication, so you can just do 1/5 times 1/5 or times 1/7. And you can move this around as comfortably as you want. And Just do it like this, right? And obviously, if you got the answer, I think it was 3, right? Did you get the answer before?
Yeah.
Yeah, the answer is 3. You're not meant to get the answer. But it's not hard to get the answer with what we know already. So this is why you're probably thinking this is pointless right now. But we'll go to a couple questions now. We'll skip actually this page. We're gonna go to the page after. Before that, I want you guys to remember this. Recall these sort of things. If you're multiplying two positives, you get a positive. Multiply positive by a negative. Negative. If you multiply two negatives, positive. Right, like written here. Keep this in mind, right? Two positives multiplied by each other is positive. Two negatives is also positive. Only making a negative answer is if negative times positive. I've done this fair bit of these questions, right? Okay, so we can skip. We're gonna skip this section.
I've got a question.
Yep.
Why do you have to, like, remember the question 105 divided by 5 divided by 7?
Yep.
Why do you have to move it to the reciprocal instead of just solving it?
Okay, yeah. So the thing is, I already know you guys can solve this really easily, right? It's just long division. Because I'm sure you can do this easily, right? You can just do long division and stuff. You get the answer.
Yeah.
So that's the point I said. I know it feels useless, but we're going to go to a couple of questions now where you'll see why this definition is useful.
Okay.
So let me know if it still doesn't make sense why we're doing it now after this section. So dividing by reciprocals is this section. We're on page 49 now. Skipped a couple pages. Okay. So this is the best use of the new definition of division, right? So remember again, under this new definition, when you divide a number, it's the same as multiplying by the reciprocal, right? So this will help us a lot when you have to divide numbers, divide reciprocals. Because remember, the reciprocal of reciprocal is what? If you have, let's say you have 5, you do the reciprocal of that, you do the reciprocal of that again. 5. So you come back to the original number. So remember, for example, 5 reciprocal once, you get to 1/5. If you reciprocal 1/5, now what do you get to? 5 again.
5.
This is the important part, which makes division by reciprocal super easy. Once you get the idea behind it, right? So, for example, the reciprocal of half would be
2.
Yeah. Or reciprocal of 1, 2. So
2.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep, sure. So here's the important point with this new definition. Remember a divided by 1. We're trying to find a divided by 1 and b, let's say. So a divided by reciprocal. What's the new definition says? Is a times by the reciprocal of this 1 and b. What's the reciprocal on 1 and b? B. So it's a times by b. Does that make sense? How we can use the definition to make it a super easy multiplication. Multiply by 2 whole numbers now. Any questions with this? What I did here? Because we're dividing by reciprocal, which that means it's multiplying by the reciprocal of the reciprocal, which is just b. So we can use this in a few examples. But actually, once I do this in a few examples, I'll ask it again because I think it make a bit more sense when we do examples, right? So I have this question here: 8 divided by 1/3. What can we convert this into? 8 times what?
8 times 3.
3.
Yeah, very good. So we're using the definition now. Dividing by the reciprocal, same as multiplying by the reciprocal of the reciprocal, which is just 3. Ends up being 8 times 3, which is going to be super easy. It's
24.
good. I want you guys to use this idea to do part B. So Arjun, does it make sense why we're using it now?
Yeah, it makes so much more sense, yeah.
Yeah, I was just building up to this part. So it's really easy, right? Once you know the definitions. I want you guys to do B. Okay.
I put my answer in.
Okay, I'll take a look. So I want you to try this one, which is this. You divide by 1 and B, same as this 8 times over.
8 times
What's the reciprocal for 1 and B?
B.
So it's 8 times B.
Oh,
So that's 8. I want you to use that. Yeah, and that should be right. Yeah, very good, Arjun. So be a bit careful when you're multiplying. Unless did you miss a 0 in the answer? You typed it in.
Yes.
Okay. So 24 divided by 117 becomes just 24 times by 17. If you do long multiplication, what does that become? Right, Ryan, did you do this?
480.
Yeah.
How'd you go with it? What was the answer to this one? You're still doing it. Keep going. It's fine.
Still doing it.
Still doing it, but did you get to this step, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the most important part. After that, it's just long multiplication. Right? And if you do long multiplication, you should get your answer. I'll reveal that in a minute or so. When you finish, let me know, right?
480.
6 plus 4 is 10. Carry the 1.
2.
Already 160. Oh, it's 12. I didn't want to
Oh,
say
17.
no, sorry, you did 17.
Oh,
But 168, you carry the 1 again, get another one. Because 168 is not the carried one. Carry the 1 here to get an extra 1. What's 24? Is it the one you carried, or is it part of this number?
oh, that's the one I carried. So 2 times.
What, 24 times 7 is 168 already?
Oh,
You carried
that-
1.
that's the one. 10 and then put 1 here.
But 24 times 2 is 168. It should be 20. First of all, 24 times 7. I'll go through the long multiplication. So 24 times 17 is 4 times 7 is 8, or 28. Carry the 2. 7 times 2 is 14. Add the plus 2 is 16. 168. The 0 for the next part, right? You get 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. 168 plus 240. 8 plus 0 is 8. 6 plus 4 is 0. Carry 1. 1, 1, 2. 408. Did you guys get that answer?
Just put it down.
You gotta be careful with your working. Because I know you guys get the ideas, but you gotta be careful with your working. Because even if you know how to do it, you gotta still be careful. Right, now we're gonna do a few more questions along with this definition. First one is, actually I'll give you guys 5 minutes to do these questions. So we'll discuss it at the end. So this is next page 50. The D is a good question. Convert the definition of do multiplication. Like, you know how you convert this division by reciprocal multiplication, do the same thing, but just 1 by 1. It's like, I'll show you this question on video. Here's the multiple. I'll show you like 1/5 times 1/7.
Yeah.
Like that. First one's good. If urgent part A is good. These two cancel out. One divided by this.
It kind of comes up to it.
Well, no, you cancel them out, but like think like this. No, not those two. Actually, I'll get a pen. So like this. Third times divided by 30 is the same as third times 3. This reciprocal has one of these three. So cancel this.
So,
I mean, you got the answer before, but I just wanted to show you. We're gonna go to part A now. I think your part B, C was looking right. So do the calculation carefully. So part A, it's just 12 times 5, right? I'm not gonna put the answer up. I'll put it up at the end later, but it's 12 times 5. We just convert it to a multiplication. Part B ends up being what? 14 times. Can you tell me what's going to be multiplied by? Anyone online? You guys already did it, right?
9.
Negative 13.
Yeah, very good. Reciprocal of -1 and 13, -13. What about C? Not the answer right now, just -18 times by what?
22.
Is it 22 or is it something else? It's not 22.
I think it's mine, negative 22.
Yep, -22, because -1 and 22, -22. And when two negatives multiply, the negatives will, what happens to negative?
Cancel out.
Cancel. So you can do the same as 18 times 22. And you get those answers and you get that. Right? So I'm going to say the answers now. 12 times 5 is 60. 14 times -13 is -182. And can anyone tell me the answer to C? Someone online?
96.
Sorry?
96.
Careful. This is times by 22. You're right. You're right as well. 396. Does this part make sense?
Oh, I get it now.
Yeah, just gotta be careful with long multiplication. Right, any questions with A, B, and C? Okay, what about D though? D is a tricky one. Before we do anything, I want you to convert this into all multiplications. This will be super easy.
4 times. Or 4 times 1/3.
No, because there's no additions. Yes, what is it going to be?
It would just be 12.
So use the definition. Dividing by number same as multiplying by its reciprocal, right? So 3rd divided by 3 same as 3rd times by. Someone online though?
Oh, 3.
3. And dividing by the second third is also the same as multiplying by?
4.
No. What's the reciprocal of a third?
1/3.
It's 3, right? Do you agree? I mean, the reciprocal third doesn't change. It's just same as multiplying by 3. So all three of these, divide by third, divide by third, divide by third, they're the same as multiplying by 3. 3 times. This part makes sense. I know it's a bit of a tricky idea.
It makes sense.
Yep. What about everyone else?
Yep.
And when you do this, what's your answer?
12.
No. Careful. First, if you have a third and a third 3 here, what happens to them when you multiply them? Janidu? What happens to when you multiply the third by the 3? It becomes?
You cancel out the 1/3 and the 3.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes 1, which is basically cancelling out. It's just 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is just 9. So answer is
9.
so you see a really tricky looking problem ends up being relatively straightforward, right? So we're gonna finish with one last problem before we finish for the day. It's this one, a word problem. I'll give you guys 2 minutes to just do this word problem, then we'll finish up. Yeah, that's good. You gotta find what number is 10 further. What's divided by 1? You divide by 3, divide by 1. I'll tell you something. Every single question in this chapter, except the reciprocal questions, all have whole number answers. If you get a non-whole number answer, it's going to be slightly unusual. But it's divided by 1/3, not divided by 3. What happens when you divide by 1/3? So when it says quotient, it just means you get the answer from when you divide 64 by 1/3, you add 10 to it basically. What's 64 divided by 1/3 the same as? If you convert this to multiplication, it becomes? Anyone? You're good, Janvi. 64 times what?
3 equals 190.
Yeah, which is 192.
1. Yeah, 1.
Right, but is that our answer though?
No.
What do we need to do now?
Add 10.
Add 10,
Add 10.
which is 202.
202. All right. That's the final answer. Okay. So does that question make sense? With word problems, it's a bit tricky because you have to read and comprehend what's going on first as well. The symbols aren't given for you. You got to think of what the symbols are going to come in. Right. You convert this into numbers, then you get the answer. Right. Does the overall concept of dividing by the reciprocal make sense though?
It makes sense.
All right. So I'm gonna give you a fair few questions from this topic. So I want you guys to be really good at this by next week. All right. There's gonna be a few of these questions in next week's quiz. Okay, and then next week we'll get started on the next topic, which is exponents or powers. We'll see. We'll finish there. Do any of you guys have any questions?
No questions for me.
No questions? All right. In that case, we'll finish there. So yeah, I'll see you guys next week, and we'll get started on next topic next week.
Bye.